Good evening, this is Atmospheric Alex here with yet another tropical weather forecast and discussion video here, and we're going to be talking about two hurricanes that could get quite close or even impact the U.S. heading into next week. We're taking a look here at Invest 94L down here with your red X, and then of course tropical storm, not hurricane, tropical storm Humberto right now that is going to be heading on off to the northwest, Miss Bermuda, and could actually cause some impacts here to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, such as high surf, high waves, and maybe even some gusty winds. So before we get into all of that, we're going to take a look at hurricane, or I should say remnants of Hurricane Gabrielle right here, which is heading towards the Azores. If you remember yesterday, I was talking about how significant impacts would be likely to some of the islands, and you could see it here, really looking disheveled. You could see your lower level circulation kind of underneath, or not even underneath cloud cover, I meant to say displaced from your cloud cover right there. So certainly getting sheared apart, shredded apart, and that is why it is an extratropical cyclone. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at weather-wise here for Gabrielle. You could see I actually moved the screen over a bit this time, so hopefully nothing gets cut out like last time. You can see the Azores Islands here getting a direct impact from a Category 1 hurricane going into tonight. And then all the way out here, look at this, Portugal, we could be talking about tropical storm impacts here to Lisbon, but that is where we are anticipating tropical storm impacts and even stuff further down the road too. So you do need to prepare for this even if you're out in Portugal. Isn't that crazy? Now we're going to go ahead and roll on into our Halves A hurricane model here. We're only going to look at one for Gabrielle because we have to move through things pretty quickly as there's a lot to cover in this video in a short amount of time. We're going to look at Gabrielle as it impacts those islands. Yeah, look at these wrap-around winds later on tonight. We are talking about significant destructive gusts between 90 to 100 miles an hour on some of these islands here. That is expected. Again, this is a hurricane model, and we have gotten consensus that we could be seeing some triple-digit wind readings. So if you're on the Azores, you need to prepare now. Maybe consider boarding up your windows. Hopefully you have some food stocked up because you'll be losing power. It is going to be a very dangerous situation out there, and you need to take this very seriously. And then these winds should hopefully move out by tomorrow afternoon. Now we're going to take a look here at Tropical Storm Humberto on our satellite imagery. You can see it is starting to curl up a lot faster, and we're starting to get this shrimp shape beginning to really develop here. Could have drawn that a bit better, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. The tail, the head right here, certainly starting to get a lot more consolidated and starting to rotate around quite a lot more. And as we take a look at Invest 94L, it is situated just off to the south of the Dominican Republic. A little bit of a swirl is trying to make it on land right here. You could see underneath this canopy of intense cloud cover, you see a little bit of a swirl right there just to the south, if not even inland into the Dominican Republic. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at Tropical Storm Humberto on our satellite imagery here, and on weather-wise, kind of see where it is going. It looks like it is supposed to stay well off to the west of Bermuda, thankfully, but this cone right within here is starting to aim a little more like this. So could we potentially be talking about U.S. impacts with Humberto as well? We're just going to have to wait and see. Again, high surf, extreme rip currents are going to be expected, so please do not go out on the beaches. It will be quite dangerous. Then as we take a look at spaghetti models here, you could definitely see what we're talking about with Humberto. As it begins to move on off, you can see the majority of them do keep it out to sea, but a few members here are getting a little bit closer here. Again, I don't really expect much in the way of significant impacts for the U.S., but some along the immediate coastline are possible. And as we take a look at Invest 94L, you can see it fairly well organized right here. It is anticipated to move off to the northwest here, and you can see portions of our red zone here is getting very close to South Carolina and North Carolina, where a landfall does look possible. We're going to take a look at some of those models here in the long or the medium run, because this is becoming a very quickly developing situation that kind of came out of nowhere, if you will. Now, I did want to switch a few things up and look at our intensity guidance here from Humberto, and you could see here it is anticipated to become a major hurricane, a Cat 3, even a Cat 4 hurricane by the time it is just to the west of Bermuda. So again, high surf concerns along the North Carolina coastline are possible. And as we go ahead and take a look at Invest 94L, first with our spaghetti models, you could see a pretty good consensus that this will likely go right into North or South Carolina here, impacting states like Georgia, even portions of East Tennessee as well, definitely are possible, and even going further off to the west, but that is a little bit uncertain at this time. And as we go ahead and take a look at our intensity guidance here, you can see the majority of them do keep it as a high-end tropical storm, low-end Cat 1 hurricane, but this could easily become a lot stronger as our waters are almost boiling over the southwest Atlantic near the Bahamas right now. Water temperatures in the mid to nearly upper 80s in some areas, so definitely need to watch this. Some of our models here, we're going to look at our European ensemble model. You could see in very good agreement that we are going to be talking about a direct U.S. landfall here from 94L right there. And then Humberto becoming a very major hurricane. I'm going to say this right now, I may regret it. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a Category 5 out of this. Again, it's not a forecast, but you have to wonder, right? Our past few storm systems have overperformed significantly, like Aaron and then Gabrielle as well, especially Aaron. So it's going to be taking a very similar track to Aaron, so we could see similar intensities. But you could see it there staying decently far from Bermuda, at least trying to. Couple of these members lagging behind. There's Bermuda, and we have a pretty big consensus right there, so we're going to have to watch. And then maybe stuff later down the road as well. As we look at tropical tidbits here at our main deterministic European model, you can see that it is quite far off to the west. Look at that for 94L. Humberto, much more south than forecasted. In fact, could see some outer bands impact portions of the Bahamas right here. That's absolutely insane. We were not expecting a track like that at all. And then look at this here, a direct hurricane landfall here going into North South Carolina right here, and this is going to be moving on through potentially in the 28th to the 30th of September, give or take a day or two, and going right up in there, stalling a bit. Flooding concerns for western North Carolina and central North Carolina. You need to monitor this very closely, all right? Not saying it's a forecast, but you all remember what has happened in the past, so we just need to be mindful. And then Humberto bringing a ton of cold air with it too. That's pretty cool to watch from a meteorological standpoint. I cannot talk tonight, my gosh. And let's look at the European AI model. I actually haven't looked at this at all today. We could see here, this is a little bit bizarre. In 94L going really far off to the west, providing impacts to Cuba. That is something we're going to be watching. And this definitely does make quite the impact, not landfall, but an impact as a Category 2 hurricane to South Carolina. Significant flooding is definitely possible if this stalls out right off the coast. We do not want this thing stalling. We could be talking about substantial rainfall if that occurs. And then Humberto out here as well. And this is happy hour. Please do not trust this. That is probably not going to happen. All right, we're going to take a look at a very interesting product here from our FNV3 AI model here. This is a brand new AI model just launched a few weeks ago, I believe, and is actually been a little bit accurate this season thus far. And we're going to take a look at our spaghetti models from this as it is jam-packed. Direct landfall on North to South Carolina, Myrtle Beach. You may need to watch that quite closely for your area, and that's going to be something we need to watch. A lot of members stalling out there too definitely are going to be a major concern, especially right within here where you could see them all bunched up. That is a stall, and that is substantial flooding being possible along your coast. And then Humberto, yeah, probably Cat 4, maybe a Cat 5 hurricane out in the open Atlantic. How about our GENC model here? This is yet another AI model. I believe this is the Google AI model. Yeah, Google is even getting its own weather models now. Isn't that crazy? But you could see a stalling motion right here. You can see some of these, little strands of spaghetti kind of doing something like this right within there. So we're going to be talking about this, and we, again, don't want this stalling out. Significant rainfall would be a concern with this. Now let's look at our hurricane models. I have not seen these yet, so this is a brand fresh new data here. A big surprise awaits. We're going to look at Humberto first from our half-say model. And you can see it here just exploding over the next few days. I mean, we're talking about this thing. This is a Category 4 by the time we get into the 28th. This is going to be some serious eye candy for you all who love looking at satellite imagery. And you better believe I'll be loading up those zoomed-in mesosectors on cyclonicweather.com, and I will be providing that imagery for you all, so don't you worry. And you can see, goodness gracious, 145 miles an hour. That is a strong Category 4 out there. Absolutely gorgeous to look at. And this does continue on through, weakening a bit for 94L. And this actually gets a little bit closer here with a ginormous wind field extending all the way out to Delaware here and Maryland and portions of even New Jersey up here. So, yeah, you know, could definitely be talking about some impacts along the coast, high surf, high waves, and extreme rip current risks, obviously, could be in the cards. Your halves B model here, rapid to even explosive intensification is possible with this system. Category 4 is expected. I don't see how it can't happen at this point. And this is going to continue on off. Look at that. Outer Banks getting some pretty substantial winds there. And whoa, this gets a little bit close for comfort. You can actually see what looks to be a Fujiwara effect. You have 94L right down here off your screen, and you have Humberto right here. And what could wind up occurring is you could see 94L doing a motion like this, and Humberto doing a motion like this with your central call of winds, kind of your centralized area of no wind at all, that is going to be pinwheeling these systems around each other. So could we see a Fujiwara effect? Is definitely in the cards, and that will throw off models substantially. So if we see this, Humberto may be making a visit to the mid-Atlantic, but not a forecast. Please don't take any of that out of context, because that likely won't happen. Going on through to our H-Warp model, intensifies it a lot faster here. Again, mid-range, high-end Category 4 hurricane, very substantial out there. I mean, you could just stare at the satellite imagery for hours and hours when this thing does form. And there's Bermuda. Honestly, this looks like a more realistic scenario here, staying well in between North Carolina and Bermuda, so let's hope that happens. HMOD, we're going to run this through really quickly because we're running out of time. You could see almost a Category 5 on that run, 151 miles an hour. Goodness gracious. And yeah, again, the older hurricane models look to have this a little bit more realistic. Your halves A model for Invest 94L, it really struggles to get consolidated, but finally up near the Bahamas does it do so, and it does intensify it up into a hurricane, makes a landfall just to the southwest of Myrtle Beach, I do believe, takes it inland, causes impacts. Whoa, even provides some gusty winds to East Tennessee there. Of course, when I'm not at home to see it, because Mother Nature hates me sometimes, and you can see as this continues on through, not a forecast, but we could see a track similar to that. Your halves B model, again, it seems like these newer hurricane models have a ton of trouble with trying to find out where that center is due to the topography of the Dominican Republic. For some reason, it takes this gigantic outflow boundary and thinks that this is our system down here. So I think that might need to be a future fix to these models, because I'm not really liking what it's doing. And that's going to throw off our system up here and make it either weaker or stronger. But again, very good consensus there. I'm not going to be home to see that, sadly, but I mean, you get the idea. Your H-Warp model does a much better job at pinpointing the center here and actually makes it a little bit stronger here, almost a Category 2 hurricane making a landfall into North Carolina, significant winds going onshore. Take a look at this. That would certainly be a very dangerous situation if that played out, and that continues. Just, yeah, very windy system indeed. A lot of rain as well. And we'll go over that in the next video, but here's the HMOD model to wrap off the video here. You can see this is questionable. It initializes weirdly, and HMOD's a weird model, okay? That being said, thank you all so much for tuning into today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to my little corner of the weather community. Also, feel free to share with friends and family on social media, and even also leave a comment in the section below if you did enjoy the video or if you have any future recommendations for me next. And with that being said, you all have a wonderful night and stay very weather aware, especially out there in North and South Carolina, as this could be the first significant U.S. impact of the entire hurricane season.